Hey Sugar Geeks, Liz here. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make one of the most highly requested videos of last week. I asked you guys what cake you wanted me to make next and you said ice cream cake, ice cream cake, ice cream cake. Okay, I'm hearing you. So today we're making a cookies and cream ice cream cake. Let's get started. So making an ice cream cake might seem intimidating. I know I was intimidated the first time I started researching it, but it's actually surprisingly simple. So the first thing we're gonna do is make our actual cake layers. I'm using my easy chocolate cake recipe. This is an oil-based cake. Butter gets really hard when it's frozen and can be kind of hard to fork through, but an oil-based cake is going to be pretty tender or defrost fairly quickly. So I'm measuring all my ingredients out with my scale, just getting those all prepared. I get everything ready ahead of time just so that we don't have to worry about, what's going in where. The thing that's probably just the kind of the weird one is we're getting some hot coffee. If you don't want to use coffee or you don't have any coffee, you can just use hot water, but the coffee is going to intensify the chocolate fudgy layer and just make it taste more like chocolate. It will not taste like coffee, I promise. This is a really simple recipe because we're just gonna literally add all of our ingredients together. Flour, cocoa powder. I'm using Dutch cocoa powder by Cocoa Berry, but you could also use Hershey's. It's gonna have a slightly different flavor, but either one will work for this recipe. Sugar, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. All right, I'm using my Bosch Universal Plus. I have an affiliate link in the description below if you wanna check that out. Got my paddle attachments, my bowl scrapers, put that all on. And I'm just gonna mix to combine real quick. I don't want that cocoa powder to puff up. All right, so now I'm gonna add in my milk, oil, eggs, room temperature, and vanilla. Mix that up for 2 full minutes to just get the structure going, make it nice and thick. Should look something like this. All right, now we're gonna add in our hot coffee. And then I'm gonna put my cover on so it doesn't splash me. And then we're just gonna mix that just until it's combined and then we're done. And as you can see, it's a very wet batter. It's very loose and that is normal. Divide the batter in between 2 8-inch by 2-inch cake pans. You can use any size cake pan you want, honestly. But an ice cream cake, I'm just letting you know, it does not like to be tall and skinny because once you start cutting into it and it starts getting to be room temperature, it starts getting a little melty. So, 8 inches is better than 6 inches, but honestly, you can use any size cake pan. I like to weigh my pans with the batter in it just to kind of see if it's even. And the reason I care so much about it being the same is just because I like my cakes to be done baking at the same time, and I like them to be the same size. There we go, 2.2 and 2.2. That makes my Sugar Geek so happy. So now we're gonna bake those 2 cakes in the oven at 335 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your oven, or until the top of the cake is just set, or if you're like me, until you can smell the cake cooking and then you know it's done. It's my cake superpower. All right, so once your cake is done baking, let it cool down until the pan is just kind of warm to the touch. And then you can flip it out. Ooh, pretty. Thanks, Cake Goop. All right, and then we're gonna freeze this right away. And what freezing does is it locks in all of the moisture into the cake and actually stops it from drying out. So you can actually do that to any cake, even ones that you don't plan on turning into ice cream cake. You just freeze them right when they're just barely warm and that will lock in all that moisture. I freeze mine overnight, but the minimum of 3 hours. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and make my ice cream layer. I am using my favorite brand of ice cream. This is not paid advertising, but this is a local Oregon brand of ice cream. It's the best, so delicious, but you could use anything. You could use any cake recipe, any combination of ice cream. So your flavor options are endless. So I took this out of the freezer about 30 minutes ago, so it's already starting to get nice and soft. So I can easily scoop it into my pan, and then all we have to do is just refreeze that layer and it's ready to go. You can even make your own ice cream, and right at that point where your ice cream is done mixing and it's kind of in that softened stage, you just smooth it right into the pan and then freeze it right away. And it will save you a lot of money making your own ice cream. The Bosch Universal Plus actually has an ice cream attachment. I'll put the link down there in the description. It's so easy and really simple and can save you a little bit of time. And it's really fun. Who wants to make their own ice cream? Me. All right, so to make our ice cream layer, very simple. We have the pan and some tin foil. I'm just pressing that into the sides. You can use wax paper, or you can use parchment. You could use plastic wrap, but tin foil kind of holds onto the pan a little bit better so that when you smush the ice cream in there, it doesn't pull up when you move your spatula. I'm gonna get all the way into those corners so I have a nice even layer. Okay, got that ready to go. Now we have our ice cream. Ooh, yeah. And we are gonna take this entire container of ice cream and put it in here. This is 1.5 quarts, just in case you had multiple pints of ice cream or something else. Basically, you just wanna fill your pan. So if you're using a different size pan, then I mean, you might need more or less ice cream. Ooh, yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't know why that makes me so happy. I'm just trying to make sure I don't have any air bubbles, you know, getting down in all those crevices. When I first did this, I thought it was gonna be more complicated to like smooth this out, but ice cream melts pretty quickly and softens pretty quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So now that goes into the freezer overnight, so we will come back tomorrow and put our cake together. Okay, so it's been 24 hours. Our ice cream layer is frozen, our cake layers are frozen. It's time to make our stabilized whipped cream, and we're doing a double batch. Or you could use Cool Whip. You don't have to actually use stabilized whipped cream, or you could use better cream. Any kind of whipped topping is gonna be really delicious. Now, if you are gonna be delivering this cake and traveling any sort of distance, you may want to use buttercream because it's gonna hold the cake together and be a little bit more stable inside a cooler with some dry ice. Like, you wanna keep everything, you know, as cold as possible. But keep in mind, once it starts to warm up, the buttercream is gonna stay kind of hard. So my opinion is go ahead and use the whipped cream, put it into a freezer, like transport it while it's still frozen solid, put the dry ice in there, and don't travel more than an hour away. First, we're going to bloom our gelatin. Just sprinkle that in there, and we're gonna set that aside, let it absorb fully. I'm just using Knox gelatin, but if you head to my website and check out my stabilized whipped cream recipes, there's multiple ways that you can stabilize gelatin, including using pudding or cornstarch. You know, check it out if you want some options. Okay, now I'm gonna add my heavy cream into my mixing bowl. And we're just gonna mix this low to medium low until we start getting some thickened bubbles. All right, now I'm gonna add in my powdered sugar and my vanilla, and we're gonna whip that to soft peaks, meaning you're just starting to see some lines developing in that whipped cream surface, but it is not holding its shape yet. Also, if you wanted to color this whipped cream, now is the point that you would add a couple drops of food coloring. I would recommend using liquid food colors, like the kinds you get from the grocery store, not gel colors, because they're gonna get like little clogged and ugly bits down in there, but you can color your whipping cream if you want to. Airbrush color would also work if you have that. Edible airbrush color. All right, I can see that, you know, we're getting some lines in there. So now I'm going to microwave my gelatin for like 5, maybe 10 seconds. You just want the gelatin to be melted, which means you can't see any granules of gelatin anymore, or if you touch it with your fingers, you can't feel any granules. And then we're going to combine that with a little bit of cream so that it mixes into this, you know, without getting any like hard pieces of gelatin. I'm going to stream that in while mixing on low. So you don't want to over mix your whipped cream. It should look nice and smooth and not like it's starting to get curdled and turn into cheese. And you know, as you frost your cake, it is going to continue mixing. So it's important for it to be holding its shape, but not overmixed. So I have my frozen cakes. They've actually been out for probably about an hour or so. So they're almost completely defrosted. And I've trimmed the top off so they're just nice and level. And I'm going to take a little bit, just a little of my whipped cream, put that on there. And then we just take this out of the pan. Look how beautiful. Peel all your sides down. And I'm not gonna lie, you need to work quickly because your ice cream wants to melt. So if you're wondering, Liz, how do I make an ice cream cake without it melting? The answer is you work fast. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more I'm just gonna even out my top here. Other layer goes on top. I just wanna eat it right now. I'm just kind of flattening out the ice cream layer, filling in any holes, because you know, you guys, I'm obsessed with my layers looking beautiful, right? We know this about me now, we've accepted it. So I'm just smoothing out my layer, and then I'm gonna fill in any other gaps with some whipped cream and just kind of do a crumb coat. So we're covering the ice cream layer first. It kind of holds everything in place and keeps it from sliding around. Frosting with whipped cream is so nice, so smooth. At this point, I hope you have made room in your freezer for the giant ice cream cake that you're about to put in it. If not, maybe go ask somebody to do that really quick. All right, this is going into the freezer. All right, so now I'm gonna make my ganache drip. I'm gonna cheat and just like heat up my chocolate for about a minute and then heat up my cream until it's steaming and hot, and then just mix the two together and whisk. You could also do the traditional style where you like take the cream, heat it up on the stove top until it's steaming, pour that over your chocolate, let it sit for 5 minutes and then whisk. You can also use water ganache. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, then you know everybody's talking about water ganache right now. That recipe is also on sugargeekshow.com. And then we are going to just check the temperature to make sure that it cools down to about 90 degrees before we start dripping. Okay, crumb coat is frozen. Now I'm gonna put my final layer of whipped cream on there. Your stabilized whipped cream is going to stay creamy for, I would say, no more than 30 minutes to an hour, because once it sits for a long time, the gelatin basically sets and becomes stable. So make sure you're using the leftover whipped cream within an hour, or you are making one batch of stabilized whipped cream for the crumb coat, and then if you freeze it overnight, make a second batch for the final coat. I'm just gonna smooth that out with my bench scraper. This is how I wish buttercream smoothed out. No bubbles, super creamy. Okay, and we're gonna just smooth out the top. And then I'm gonna pop that back into the freezer for about 15 minutes. I'm gonna take some Oreo cookie crumbs and put those kind of around just the base. The thing when you're making ice cream cakes is you gotta work fast, right? It's not a lot of fancy decorating you can do. You can't put any fondant over the top. So you just kind of want to quickly decorate it with kind of anything that says what the flavor is, and then you're done. All right, I'm gonna put my ganache into my piping bag, snip off the tip, and then just start dripping all the way around the outside edge. And then I'm gonna put the excess on top and quickly smooth it out with a spatula. You wanna do this all before the ganache sets. I'm just using my spatula to make a little swirl in the middle. Kind of smooths it all out, makes it look pretty. And the last thing I'm gonna do is just do some quick little dollops. Just extra whipped cream. And then we're gonna add our Oreo cookies, and our cookies and cream ice cream cake will be complete. So now we can put this back into the freezer if you're not eating it right away. Otherwise, you can dig right in. If it is frozen solid and you want to serve it, I recommend taking it out about 30 minutes to an hour before you cut into it, so that the cake and the ice cream has a little bit of time to soften. If it's really hot outside, obviously, you know, it's not gonna take very long for it to get soft enough to cut into. Time for my favorite part, I get to eat the cake. So when I was growing up and we had birthday parties, we always had ice cream and cake, and I'm learning that that's not always the case. So in the comments below, let me know. Are you team ice cream and cake, or do you like just ice cream and just cake? Like eat them separate or together? Okay, ready? You gotta go team ice cream. So good. The cake is fudgy. It's almost like a brownie. This cake has been out for probably about an hour now, and I think it's perfect. The cake is soft enough that you can just literally fork right into it. The ice cream is melty, so like everything is just kind of blending together, and it tastes delicious. Can you zoom in on this? Look at this. Look at that. Oh my God. That really is super good. This just reminds me of childhood. So that's it, guys. That is how you make the most amazing ice cream cake. I hope you try this one out soon. In the meantime, don't forget to check out more cake tutorials right here. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button right down there. I'm Liz Merrick, and I will see you guys next week. Bye. Come to me, my friend.